Check to make sure we're online. I got some. Let's see. We are live. That is fantastic. It's nice to be live. Okay. Get this set up. All right, everybody. We are ready to go. And as we usually do, we're going to chant the prayers to Lord Nrsingadev before the class. And the reason for this is because there's people suffering in Ukraine, and we are very, very concerned about the situation there, and praying for the devotees and praying for the people in general. Krishna, please bring peace and allow people to execute devotional service peacefully in Ukraine and elsewhere in the world. My dear Lord Krishna, please help these devotees and help everybody. Okay. So, let me get the guitar, and then we can chant the prayers to Lord Nrsingadev. All right, gang, let's go. Namaste Nrsinghaya Baladayan Joyane Irangakashi Urvachaha Shilatampa Kolai Ituna Singha Baratuna Singho Yatoya Yatuna Singha Bakina Singho Vidayana Singho Nrsinghamadev Shanam Brahma Joy Nrsinghamadev Shanam Brahma Joy Namaste Nrsinghaya Panadalada Tayane Hiranyakashi Purvachaka Jilatam Ganakalaya Ituna Singha Antona Singha Yato Tatona Singha Bakina Singha Vidayana Singha Nrsinghamadev Nam Brahma Joy Nrsinghamadev Nam Brahma Joy Kavakana Kamala Padrena Kama Buddha Singha Gadita Hiranyakasi Buddhano Ringa Isavadrita Nadari Rupa Takadisane Jaita Kadisane Jaita Kadisane Kamakara Kamalava Rain Kama Sringa Dalita Hiranyakasi Buddhan Ringa Esavadrita Nadi Rupa Jaita Kadisane Jaita Kadisane Jaita Kadisane Kavakara Kamalapa Raina Kam Abutta Singha Kama Dalita Ranyakasi Buddhanu Ringa Namatrita, Narani Rupa, Jaina Gudi Sante, Jaina Gudi Sante, Jaina Gudi Sante, Jaina Sringadev, the Singadev, the Singadev, Jaina Sringadev. The Sringadev, the Sringadev, the Sringadev, the Sringadev. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Jaya, Prabhupada, 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 Jaya, Prabhupada, Haribo, 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 Haribo. Jai Om Vishnupad, Paramahansa, Parabhakacharya, Alstatena, Satashi, Shimad, His Divine Grace. Abhaya Charanatha Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Go Shri Krishna Caitanya. Prabhu Nityananda Shadwait Gadadha Shivasati Go. Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Shri Radhakrishna, Gopi Govinda, Shyam Kunda, Radhakunda, Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavanam Ki Jai, Maturam Ki Jai, Jagannatha Swami Ki Jai, Yamunamai Ki Jai, Srimati Lasadevi Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda, Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories the assembled devotees, all glories the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Budale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharni Nivashesha Shunyavadi Paschachate Shatarni. So, we're going to continue with our study of the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta. Just one note that I will make right now, and I will also do this at the end of the class, is that tomorrow is Gaur Purnima here, the glorious appearance of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu. So tomorrow's class will be at the same time, and I'll be giving it from the temple, and it will be about Lord Caitanya's pastimes. And also we'll be giving a class in the morning here tomorrow about Lord Caitanya's internal reasons for appearing, first of all. And then also I'm going to be giving different quotes from different shastras that verify that Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because whenever you hear about an incarnation, you better find some shastric reference. Otherwise, don't accept that particular incarnation. So tomorrow's Lord Chaitanya's appearance day. So tomorrow morning, which is tomorrow evening for those of you in Australia, New Zealand, Fiji, and then tomorrow evening, which is the next morning, which is Friday morning. For those of you in Australia, New Zealand, Fiji, at this time, there'll also be a class. So two classes uh, in the morning. In the evening, I guess, in the evening of this same day, for those of you in New Zealand and Australia and Fiji. Well, that's interesting. So you got two classes, uh, one in the evening, the next one the next morning. Anyway, the evening class will be today in the evening for Australia, New Zealand, Fiji. Okay. Anyway, just remembering all the time zone changes. So now we're going to go on to the Caitanya Charitamrita, and interestingly enough, in honor of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance, we're going to be starting the Antya Lila. Yesterday we finished the Madhya Lila of the Sri Caitanya Charitamrita, and today we're going to be at the final portion of the Caitanya Charitamrita, the end Lila. As we've described yesterday, the first 24 years of the Lord's pastimes were in Navadvip. And of course, sometimes he went to East Bengal, but generally in Navadvip is householder pastimes. And then you have the next 8 years is when he's traveling all over, and then the final years of the 48 years of his pastimes occurs in Jagannath Puri, and this is what we're going to be reading about today, starting today, the Antya Lila of the Sri Caitanya Charitamrita. So, Om Gana Timidandasha Garanjana Shlakaya Chakshur Unmeditam Yena Tasmai Shikadve Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. So let's share the screen and go to the Caitanya Charitamrita, beginning of Antya Lila. So Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. So first chapter of the Antya Lila of the Sri Caitanya Charitamrita is called Srila Rupa Goswami's second meeting with the Lord. Okay, and as you all know, or I hope you know, we are Rupa Nugas. Rupa Nuga means we are followers of Srila Rupa Goswami. In other words, he has established the law books for our Krishna consciousness movement, which Srila Prabhupada has given us. So, a collaborative effort between Srila Prabhupada and Srila Rupa Goswami, and of course the other acharyas too, who commented on Srila Rupa Goswami's books and who commented on the Srimad Bhagavatam too. But we follow the process laid out by Srila Rupa Goswami. Why? Because Srila Rupa Goswami is the acharya of Abhideya. Now, if you remember the classes which we've been giving for the last 2,000 years, there's three levels when we're talking about Bhakti Yoga. The first level is Sambandha. That is really just understanding the different tattvas. That means the material energy, the Lord, and the living entity, Maya, and Shaktis, etc., and the relationship with each other. That's Sambandha. Really understanding its ontology, to use a big word. Okay, ontology, big word for you. Brush your friends. And then the next level, so let's stick with ontology for a second. So Sanatana Goswami is the acharya of this ontological aspect, which is Sambandha Gyan. Gyan means knowledge. And then Srila Rupa Goswami is the acharya of the next aspect, which is called abhideya, the actions in devotional service. Got it? And that includes Vaidya Bhakti, uh, Sadhana Bhakti. Of course, Vaidya is a type of sadhana. Raghunuga Bhakti, which is a type of sadhana. Bhavad Bhakti, and finally, the Prayojana is Prema Bhakti. So Rupa Goswami, of course, comments on all those different levels of devotional service. And Raghunath Das Goswami is the Acharya of Prayojana, which means the ultimate goal, going back to home, back to Godhead, achieving Prema. So Srila Rupa Goswami is guiding us. His injunctions guide us in our daily activities. Therefore, we're called Rupa Anugas, which means following in the footsteps or following the instructions given by Srila Rupa Goswami. So this is very, very important. And of course, Rupa Goswami has written many, many books. Of course, for us, perhaps the most important literature he wrote is the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which is translated by Srila Prabhupada and commented on by Srila Prabhupada as the Nectar of Devotion, which Prabhupada did term as our guidebook in Krishna consciousness, which details the essential principles of Krishna consciousness and mentions that some of the details that are even in that book can be adjusted according to time, place, and circumstance. The essential principles are like accepting a spiritual master, chanting the Lord's holy names, living in a holy place, worshiping the deity. These are all essential principles. So, let's start. Without further ado, Chapter 1, Srila Rupa Goswami's second meeting with the Lord. A summary of the first chapter is given by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Amrita Pravaha Bhashya as follows. When Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu returned to Jagannath Puri from Vrindavan, all his devotees from other parts of India, upon receiving the auspicious news, came to Purushottama Kshetra, or Jagannath Puri. It's just another name for Jagannath Puri. Shivananda Sain took a dog with him and even paid fees for it to cross the river. One night, however, the dog could not get any food and therefore went directly to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Jagannath Puri. The next day, when Shivananda and his party reached Jagannath Puri, Shivananda saw the dog eating some coconut pulp offered to it by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. After this incident, the dog was liberated and went back to home, back to Godhead. Meanwhile, Srila Rupa Goswami reached Bengal after returning from Vrindavan. Although he could not follow the Bengali devotees after some time, he also came to Jagannath Puri. Following the Bengali devotees means he couldn't follow them when they went to Jagannath Puri, so he had to go pretty much alone or with some other devotees who accompanied him. Where he stayed with Haridas Thakur, Srila Rupa Goswami composed an important verse beginning with the words, Priya Sayang, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu relished it very much. One day, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Ramananda Roy, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and others went to the place of Haridas Thakur and heard some of the verses Rupa Goswami had composed for his books Lalita Madhava and Vidogda Madhava. So Lalita Madhava is actually a play that's based upon Krishna's pastimes, or showing the different rasas and bhavas of Krishna's pastimes in Dwarka. And Vidagda Madhava is dealing with Krishna's pastimes, Radha and Krishna's pastimes. They're both dealing with Radha and Krishna. Vidagda Madhava is dealing with Radha and Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. After examining the manuscripts, incidentally, if you're interested in hearing my readings of these two books, you are welcome to go to IsKCONDesiretree.com or .whatever and basically look up my name and you'll find my readings of these books as well as other books. It's all free. I'm not selling it. After examining the manuscripts of these two books, Ramananda Roy approved and appreciated them very much. After the period of Chaturmasha, all the devotees who had come from Bengal returned to their homes. Srila Rupa Goswami, however, remained at Jagannath Puri for some time. Wow, what a nice story that is. Hold on a second. Pangung langayate shailang mukam avarta yetstrutim yat kripatamam bande Krishna Chaitanya Ishwaram. I offer my respectful obeisances to Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by whose mercy even a lame man can cross over a mountain and a dumb man can recite Vedic literature. Durgame Patime Dasya Skala Panda Pada Gatermuhu Svakripa Yashnidanena Santasvantvalambanam. My path is very difficult, I am blind, and my feet are slipping again and again. Therefore may the saints help me by granting me the stick of their mercy as my support. So remember that Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is writing this Sri Caitanya Charitamrta at a very advanced age, like 70 or 80 years, something years of age. And he couldn't see, basically, he could see a little bit, but his eyes were challenged at that particular point, and his hand was trembling. And yet he was able to compose this most wonderful poetic exposition on Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. Not only poetic exposition, but actually very philosophically precise. Not only the pastimes are there, but the philosophy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the philosophy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's followers is there. Amazing what he has done at such an advanced age. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasa Raghunath H.I. Guru Karon Charana Vandana Yahaite Vignanash Abhishta Puran. I pray to the lotus feet of the six Goswamis, Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasa Raghunath, so that all impediments to my writing this literature will be annihilated and my real desire will be fulfilled. If one wants to benefit the entire world, he will certainly find persons like hogs and pigs who will put forward many impediments. That is natural. But if a devotee seeks shelter at the lotus feet of the six Goswamis, the merciful Goswamis will certainly give the Lord's servitor all protection. It is not astonishing that impediments are placed before those who are spreading the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. Nevertheless, if we stick to the lotus feet of the six Goswamis and pray for their mercy, all impediments will be annihilated, and the transcendental devotional desire to serve the Supreme Lord will be fulfilled. Now, that is pretty amazing statement Prabhupada says, Prabhupada gives. If we stick to the lotus feet, let me just outline that for those of you looking at your screen. If we stick to the lotus feet of the six Goswamis and pray for their mercy, all impediments will be annihilated. What does it mean, stick to the lotus feet? That means be dedicated to their mission and their instructions. And the transcendental desire to serve the Supreme Lord will be fulfilled. That's all we have to do. Jayatam surata pangor mamamanda mater gati matsarvashva patambujao radha madana mohanao. Glory to the all-merciful Radha and Madan Mohan. I am lame and ill-advised, yet they are my directors, and their lotus feet are everything to me. Divyad Vrindaranya Kapadramadaha Srimad Ratnagara Singhasanastao Srimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Vastalibi Sevyamana Smarami. In a temple of jewels in Vrindavan, underneath the desire tree, Sri Sri Radha Govinda, served by their most confidential associates, sits upon an effulgent throne. I offer my humble obeisances unto them. Wow. Shriman Rasa Rasonambi Vamshivata Tatastitaha Karshan Venus Vanara Gopir Gopinatha Sriaistunaha. Sri Srila Gopinath, that means the Lord of the Gopis, who originated the transcendental mellow of the Rasa dance, stands on the shore at Vamshivata and attracts the attention of the coward damsels with the sound of his celebrated flute. May they all confer upon us their benediction. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda All glories to Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all glories to Lord Nityananda, all glories to Advaita Acharya, and all glories to all the devotees of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Majalila Sangshepete Karilun Varnana Anjalila Varnana Kitchu Shunavakta Gana. I have briefly described the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu known as the Majalila. Now I shall attempt to describe something about his last pastimes, which are known as the Antya-lila. That means the final pastimes, the end pastimes. Majalila Majayantya-lila Sutragana Purvagrante Sangshepete Kariyachi Varnana. I have briefly described the Antya-lila within the description of the Majalila. There's a little bit of a synopsis there. Ami Jadagrasta Nikate Janiya Marana Anjakona Kono Lila Kariyachi Varnana. I am now almost an invalid because of old age, and I know that at any moment I may die. Therefore, I have already described some portions of the Antya-lila. So he was afraid that he wouldn't get to the Antya-lila, which he did get to the Antya-lila. And, oh my God. So dedicated, so much love at such an age. Following the footsteps of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, it's Prabhupada speaking, of course, I am trying to translate Srimad Bhagavatam as quickly as possible. However, knowing myself to be an old man and almost an invalid because of rheumatism, I have already translated the essence of all literatures, the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, as a summary study in English. I started the Krishna conscious movement at the age of 70. Now I am 78, and so my death is imminent. I am trying to finish the translation of Srimad Bhagavatam as soon as possible, but before finishing it, I have given my readers the book Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so that if I die before finishing the whole task, they may enjoy this book, which is the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam. And of course, that's what Prabhupada did. One of the first books Prabhupada translated was Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which delineates all the pastimes of the Lord found in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And there's corresponding chapters in the Krishna book with each and every chapter in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And generally, before one is qualified or has the adhikar to read the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, one has to go through all the other cantos to be qualified, to be free from lust, anger, and greed. But Prabhupada has presented this Krishna book in such a way, or Krishna's pastimes in such a way, that one actually gets the information of all the other cantos within Krishna book in Srila Prabhupada's commentaries. Genius, simply a genius. Purva Likita Grantha Sutra Anusare Ye Nahi Likita Likiye Vistare. In accordance with the synopsis previously written, I shall describe in detail whatever I have not mentioned. Vrindavana Haite Prabhu Nilachade Haila Sarupa Goshani Gode Varta Pathaila. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned to Jagannath Puri from Vrindavana, Swarup Damodar Goswami immediately sent news of the Lord's arrival to the devotees in Bengal. Shuni Shachi Anandata Sabhavakta Gana Sabi Mili Nilachale Karila Gamana. Upon hearing this news, Mother Sachi and all the other devotees of Navadvip were very joyful, and they all departed together for Nilachal, Jagannath Puri. Kulina Grami Bhakta Arayata Kandavasi Acharya Shivananda Sanemi Lila Sabihasi. Thus all the devotees of Kulina Gram and Shikanda, as well as Advaita Acharya, came together to meet Shivananda Sena. So Shivananda Sena was a businessman and a very, very good manager, and his duty was to actually facilitate the devotees in their travel to Jagannath Puri, either through financially or different managerial arrangements. So in this way, everybody can serve Krishna according to his psychophysical nature. The other day we were talking about Varnashram, how do we institute Varnashram. And there's some people who think the way to institute Varnashram is to look at the little tiny details and in this way be very, very ritualistic and somehow or other lose sight of the whole goal of Varnashram. There's a teleological approach to Varnashram. That's another big word for you. That means, what is the purpose of it? So, what is the purpose of Varnashram? To engage each, and we're talking about Daiva Varnashram right now. Daiva means transcendental Varnashram, not just simple material Varnashram. To engage each and every person in the appropriate Varna and the appropriate ashram in accordance with one's or person's psychophysical nature. So we all have a certain psychophysical nature. Generally we talk about Brahman, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, Brahmachari, Grahastha, Vanapashta, Sannyas. But, we fit in a particular psychophysical, we fit in a certain occupational duty that we're happy with. We can do it all day long, but for Krishna. So in essence, everybody's a Brahmin, because a Brahmin means, one definition is, to know Brahman. So everybody who's serving Krishna, yat karoshi yad shnashi yad jehoshi dadashi yat yata vashashi kontir tat kodeshwa mararpanam, offering the results of their activities, they're Brahmins. But these types of Brahmins, some of them like to work with their hands and do artistic things. Other ones like to manage. Other ones like to make money and protect cows. That's fine. And other ones like to do Shastra. So the whole idea of that is just like whatever you can do nicely, do it for Krishna. That's what Arjuna was advised by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Just, you're a Kshatriya, you have this certain mode, you like to fight, you like to protect people. That's more important than fighting. So therefore, do it for Krishna. That's all. That's Varnashram. Wherever you fit in. And so you have to adjust the details how to fit people in. And if you get too much caught in the details of how to fit people in, you won't be fitting people in. You'll just be driving people crazy with Picayune. Sorry, that's actually a place in Mississippi, Picayune. With Picayune details. Picayune means just like little tiny details that just drive you crazy. Say someone's Picayune, they're just like obsessive compulsive about detail, like hand washing or something like that, whatever. So anyway, Varnashram means you do what you'd like to do for Krishna, either in your Varna or ashram. That's all. I'd like to be a sannyasi for Krishna. Okay, so I'm doing it. I'd like to give a class on the internet. Okay, I'm doing it. That's Varnashram. What else do I need to know? That's it. Varna ashram. Varna means color, or exactly, where you fit in. What's your favorite color? Red, black, blue, orange, purple, chartreuse, polka dots, whatever. It's so simple. But people make things so complex. Prabhupada presented something, and Lord Chaitanya presented something so simple to Krishna consciousness. So simple as what Krishna consciousness is. So next one. Shivananda kare savara gati samadana savare palanakare deya vasastana. Shivananda is saying to arrange for the journey. He maintained everyone and provided residential quarters. This is what I just said before, if you remember. Hold on a second. Okay, I just want to turn up the volume a little bit because it's... Okay, that should be better. So, Shivananda is saying arrange these things. He was serving the Vaishnavas. That's the best service one could do. Eka kukukara Oh, chale shivananda sane baksha dia lana chale kariya palane. While going to Jagannath Puri, Shivananda Saint allowed a dog to go with him. Wow. He supplied it food to eat and maintained it. Ekadina ekastane nadi para hoite udia navika kukura na chadaya no kate. One day, when they needed to cross a river, an Orisan boatman would not allow the dog to get in the boat. In other words, Moochie. Moochie means dirty. So, Kukura Rahila Shivananda Duki Haila Dashapana Karidia Kukure Parakaila. Shivananda saying, unhappy that the dog had to stay behind, paid the boatman 10 pana of conch shells to take the dog across the river. So one pana, Prabhupada explains, 80 kadis or small conch shells, formerly even 50 or 60 years ago, there was no paper currency in India. Coins were generally made not of base metal, but of gold, silver, and copper. In other words, the medium of exchange was really something valuable. 4 pieces of kadi made 1 ganda, and 20 such gandas equaled 1 pana. This kadi was also used as a medium of exchange. Therefore, Shivananda Sain paid for the dog with dasha pana, or 80 times 10 pieces of kadi. That's a lot. In those days, 1 paisa was also subdivided into small conch shells. But at the present moment, the prices for commodities have gone so high, there's nothing one can get in exchange for only 1 paisa. A paisa is like 100th of a rupee. I don't think it's anything you get for 1 rupee either. With 1 paisa in those days, however, one could purchase sufficient vegetables to provide for a whole family. Even 30 years ago, vegetables were occasionally so inexpensive that 1 paisa's worth could provide for a whole family for a day. Wow, talk about inflation. Ekadina Shivanande Gatiyale Rakila Kukurake Baladite Sevaka Pasarila. One day, while Shivananda Sain was detained by a toll man, he had to pay the tolls for all the devotees. His servant forgot to give the dog its cooked rice. In other words, they were giving the dog cooked rice, same rice that everybody else was eating. It's not that they cook specially. Ratrayasi Shivananda Mojanera Kale Kukura Pancha Panache Bata Sevaka Puchile. At night, when Shivananda Sain returned and was taking his meal, he inquired from the servant whether the dog had gotten its meals. Kukura nahi payabata shuni duki hoila kukura chahite dasha manusha pathaila. When he learned that the dog had not been supplied food in his absence, he was very unhappy. He then immediately sent 10 men to find the dog. So it's not that he was materially attached to a dog. You know, one may think, hey, I should get a dog too. Just like every day I try to take a walk in this really nice park here. It's a mountain park right close by. Oh, there's Okanichi Park. And there's so many people walking their dogs at the park. You know, it's a mountain park. And there was one man walking 4 dogs at one time. So it's not that Shivananda Sain would just become dog consciousness, like Prabhupada would sometimes say. You could either worship God, G-O-D, or reverse the word and worship D-O-G, dog, kukura. So it's not that. Shivananda Sain understood the principle that if someone or some living entity takes shelter of you, cannot neglect them, even if it happens to be a dog. That is a very important Vaishnava principle. Some living entity takes shelter of you, you have to take care of it. I mean, maybe not take it inside. That's another thing. You know, dogs can live outside very, very nicely, and cats can do. And cats can also catch their own food by themselves. Chayina paila kukura loka sabaila dukihana shivananda upavasa kaila. When the men returned without success, Shivananda Sain became very unhappy and fasted for the night because he had neglected someone or an entity that had taken shelter of him. Prabhate kukura chahi kanhana paila sakala vaishnavera mane chamatkara hoila. In the morning they looked for the dog, but it could not be found anywhere. All the Vaishnavas were astonished. And Prabhupada explains what I just talked about. Shivananda Sain's attachment to the dog was a great boon for that animal. The dog appears to have been a street dog. Since it naturally began to follow Shivananda Sain while he was going to Jagannath Puri with his party, he accepted it into his party and maintained it the same way he was maintaining the other devotees. It appears that although on one occasion the dog was not allowed aboard a boat, Shivananda did not leave the dog behind but paid more money just to induce the boatman to take the dog across the river. Then, when the servant forgot to feed the dog and the dog disappeared, Shivananda, being very anxious, sent 10 men to find it. When they could not find it, Shivananda observed a fast. Thus it appeared that somehow or other Shivananda had become attached to the dog. As will be evident from the following verses, the dog got the mercy of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu and was immediately promoted to Vaikuntha to become an eternal devotee. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is therefore sung, Tumita Thakura Tomara Kukura Baliya Janaha More Sharanagati. He thus offers to become the dog of a Vaishnava. There are many other instances in which the pet animal Vaishnava was delivered back home to Vaikuntha Loka, back to Godhead. Wow. So we should become the pet of a Vaishnava. It's not that we should become dogs or cats, but if we have the affection of a Vaishnava, then we will be delivered. Such is the benefit of somehow or other becoming the favorite of a Vaishnava. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has also sung, Kita Janma Hayo Yata Toya Dasa Sharanagati. So that basically means, I'll take birth as an insect in the home of a devotee. And in the same poem he says, Ramajanma Nahi Yas, that I will not take birth as Lord Brahma if Lord Brahma is not a devotee. There's no harm in taking birth again and again. Our only desire should be to take birth under the care of a Vaishnava. Wow. Under the care of a Vaishnava. Fortunately, we had the opportunity to be born of a Vaishnava father who took care of us very nicely. He prayed to Srimati Radharani that in the future we would become a servant of the eternal consort of Sri Krishna. Thus, somehow or other, we are now engaged in that service. We may conclude that even as dogs, we must take shelter of a Vaishnava. The benefit will be the same as that which accrues to an advanced devotee under a Vaishnava's care. Wow! That's the secret! Prabhus, Pravis, Pravinis, Pitajis and Matajis, Utkantaya Chali Sabe, Hailanila Chale, Purvavat Mahaprabhu Milila Sakale. Thus in great anxiety they all walked to Jagannath Puri, where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met them as usual. And here's what we're going to hear about. Sabalana Kaila Jagannatha Darashana, Sabalana Mahaprabhu Karena Bhojana. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went with them to see the Lord in the temple, and on that day he also took lunch in the company of all those devotees. Purvavat Sabare Prabhu Pataila Vasasane Prabhu Tani Pratakale Ailahara Dine. As previously, the Lord provided them all with residential quarters, and the next morning all the devotees came to see the Lord. Asiyade Kila Sabe Seitaku Kure Prabhu Pashe Vashiache Kichiva Pature. When all the devotees came to the place of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they saw the same dog sitting a little apart from the Lord. What a wonderful story. Prasada Nari Kela Shashadena Pelana Ramakrishna Hari Kaha Balena Hasya. This is so funny. Furthermore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was throwing remnants of green coconut pulp to the dog. Smiling in his own way, he was saying to the dog, chant the holy names Rama, Krishna, and Hare. Shashakaya Kukura Krishna Kahi Barabara Tekiya Lokera Mane Haila Jamat Kara. Seeing the dog eating the green coconut pulp and chanting Krishna, Krishna again and again, all the devotees present were very surprised. Oh my God. How can a dog chant Krishna? You know, Krishna, 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 like that. Shivananda Dukku Kura Deki Dandavat Kaila Dainyakari Nija Aparada Shamamaila. When he saw the dog sitting in that way and chanting the name of Krishna, Shivananda, because of his natural humility, immediately offered his obeisances to the dog just to counteract his offenses to it. Because he felt responsible because the dog had not been fed the rice that a few nights before that. Such humility. Amazing. Amazing. So we should be like that too. We see someone achieving Krishna consciousness, devotion, we should offer our respects to such a person. Aradina keha tara dekana paila siradeha panakukura vaikunte te kila. The next day, no one saw that dog, for it had obtained its spiritual body and departed for Vaikuntha, the spiritual kingdom. And this is really important purport. This is the result of Sadhu Sangha, Caitanya Charitamrta, Majid Lila 2283. The consequent association with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and promotion back to home, back to Godhead. The result is possible even for a dog by the mercy of the Vaishnava. Therefore, everyone in the human form of life should be induced to associate with devotees by rendering a little service, even by eating prasadam, what to speak of chanting and dancing. Everyone can be promoted to Vaikuntha Loka. It is therefore requested that all our devotees in the ISKCON community become pure Vaishnavas, so that by their mercy all the people of the world will be transferred to Vaikuntha Loka, even without their knowledge. Woohoo! Because everyone's like a dog and a cat. Swavidvaraho Shrakarai Samstuta Purusam Prashu Nayat Karna Patopita Chaturnama Gadagrasha. Wow! Even without their knowledge, you hear that? So it's our business to become pure devotees. We have to protect our purity. Don't do anything that's impure. Everyone should be given a chance to take prasad and thus be induced to chant the holy names Hare Krishna and also dance in ecstasy. By these three processes, although performed without knowledge or education, even an animal went back to Godhead. Wow. And what a nice story to tell before Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance. So today we did verses 1 to 32, Antya Lila chapter 1, and now we will take some questions. If anyone wants to become the dog of a Vaishnava, actually I would love to become Prabhupada's dog. Anyway, so let's allow you to unmute yourselves. What a wonderful, inspiring story today, isn't it? Antya Lila is filled with stories like this. So, on that happy note, who has a question? You can type in the chat window. You can raise your little hand. Raising your hand means not you raise your hand on the screen, but you raise your hand when you do a reaction. You go to the reaction thing and raise your hand. So Gopal Das wants to become a dog of a Vaishnava. So you have a question?
This is my obeisance, Shri Gurudev. The description is there that we aspire to be a dog or a worm or some other living entity under the care of a Vaishnava, but wouldn't we want to aspire to be serving a Vaishnava and not take service from a Vaishnava?
Uh, to become a Vaishnava's dog basically means to serve a Vaishnava. But the point is, we're willing, in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's song, we're willing to take birth again as long as we have association with pure Vaishnavas. That's the whole point. Not necessarily we take service from them, but we have take association from them or with them. So anyway, that's can we say? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brought the dog due to Shivananda's fasting? No, he brought the dog back due to Shivananda's love for the dog. You know, if you have the love of a Vaishnava for you, you got it made. And Prabhupada loves us, so we got it made. That's why I know I haven't made. All I got to do is stick to serving Prabhupada, and I haven't made, and Prabhupada loves me. Fantastic. I'm going. Well, I don't know if it's going back to God, but I'm going to serve Prabhupada life after life because I'm Prabhupada's dog. Prabhupada said the neck beads that you have are dog collars. So this is my dog collar, and let Prabhupada lead me around with a leash. And actually, it was interesting at the park. There's so many dogs. The park that I walk in, there's so many dogs that the park authorities had to make a rule that the leashes could not be more than 6 feet long because the dogs were harassing other people. I mean, I walked by a man with like 3 or 4 dogs today, and I said, "Are they safe?" And he pulled in the ones that weren't safe and said, "No, this one is nice. It will eat all your scraps." And I said, "I hope I'm not one of the scraps that gets eaten." So anyway, so it's interesting. Americans are in love with dogs. But, you know, if you give mercy, if you're a Vaishnava and you have a dog, and I cannot criticize. And it's said that actually people who have pets tend to uh, live longer than those who don't because basically the reason is they don't have any good human relationships. I mean, that's a real problem in Kali Yuga. Yuga is the age of quarrel, and because people are quarreling all the time, the loving relationships have pretty much disappeared except with one's dog or cat. So it says in Fiji we were told not to give prasadam to dogs. I would always give prasadam to dogs. When I would go on my morning walk in Fiji, in Suva, I would take some puris and give it to the puppies and the dogs. Why not? Why not? We should always feed the dogs. How to celebrate tomorrow's festival at home? Watch on the internet. Good point. Okay, Lord Brahma has a question.
Hare Krishna
Brahmaji.
Maharaj,
Hare Krishna.
please
Do you have a
accept.
question?
Yes, Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj, it's very nice pastime of how even a dog can get liberation. Is that the right word? But
Yeah, we'll go
but
back to
then
Godhead. Yeah.
yeah, but then we've also seen how Bharat Maharaj got too attached to the dog. So what is the difference here between Sivananda's attachment to the dog and Bharat Maharaj's attachment to the deer?
Uh, that's very good. So Bart Maharaj's attachment to the dog was to try to not to do it to a deer, was to try to enjoy the deer. You know, so many times we have this sense of enjoyment. Uh, I mean, there's different things. I mean, we can enjoy our computer, enjoy our car. You know, real enjoying spirit. Like I gave the example a few months ago, many months ago. I was driving my car and I was enjoying by going too fast. I went twice the speed limit, and then the Krishna arranged by the Lord's arrangement. The police pulled me over and said, "Your enjoying spirit is too much," and they gave me a ticket for having an enjoying spirit. So we can use a car in Krishna's service, and now I'm extremely careful. I never speed anymore. So we can use a car in Krishna service, but it's not the object itself. It's not the dog or the deer or anything like that causes the entanglement. It's our feeling of enjoying that particular living entity. There was nothing wrong with Bharat Maharaj protecting. There was nothing wrong with Bharat Maharaj protecting the deer. That's not the point. But he neglected his spiritual principles, even his chanting, his meditation on his mantra and everything like that, to enjoy the deer. The furry whatever deer have. The fur. They have hair, I guess. I've never seen a deer with fur. I guess they have hair. I don't know. I've never really approached one that close. Yes, there are pastimes when Prabhupada gave prasadam to dogs too. So we should feel compassionate for all living entities, whether it's a dog. I mean, there was a pastime when Prabhupada saw a bug on a flower, and he said to the devotee, "The bug is hungry. Put him outside, so he could eat." So Prabhupada had compassion for all living entities, no matter how small or big they were. So this is a really important principle. But, when you do try to enjoy someone because of their body, I mean, it's just like, all right, let's take a husband and wife, for example. A husband should love the wife should love the husband. But if they're simply considering the wife to be the trophy wife, just like enjoyment, an object of enjoyment, then the next life they become a lady. And the next life for the man, for the woman, she becomes a man if she's trying to enjoy him. But if they're trying to serve each other and attached to helping spiritually the other person, then there's no switching of genders or roles at that particular point. They're simply going back to Godhead. So the whole point is serving. So Shivananda Sen was actually serving and concerned with the welfare, but not overly attached. Not attached to enjoying the dog. And there's no story here that he was picking the dog up and kissing the dog like Bharat Maharaj was doing with the deer. when I was young, I have a brother, he's still around. And he really loved the dogs that we had and the cats we had. And even the mice we had. We had actually pet mice and hamsters, and he would regularly put them to his mouth. Can you imagine this poor mouse sees his big mouth coming at him, and he kisses them by the mouth, and he kissed the dog by the mouth, and the dog kissed him in the mouth with licking him in his mouth. So it's similar to what happened with Bharat Maharaj. Of course, I don't know if there was kissing in the mouth with him, because there was an attempt to enjoy in that way. But there's nothing wrong with relationships with animals if it's one of compassion, trying to give them Krishna consciousness, and also giving them prasadam. He was giving Shivananda Sen was giving prasadam to the dog. He was thinking, and that also shows that we should be thinking of the living entity's basic human needs, or basic animal needs, such as food, water, light, so that the entity can actually rise higher. Because when the living entity is simply concentrated on the basic needs, they cannot imbibe spirituality to the greatest extent. So it's very important. Very important story, very enlivening story to hear how Lord Chaitanya is so merciful and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is so merciful right before Gaur Purnima. I think it's a perfect story to bring us into the mood of worshiping Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. So on that happy note, tomorrow we're going to be speaking, and also tonight for those of you in New Zealand, Australia, Fiji, tomorrow and tonight, whatever, you can figure out your own time zones and everything. We're going to be speaking about Lord Chaitanya's Advent, and there'll be some special dressing for the deities and some special activities tomorrow. And also tomorrow evening we have a dramatic performance and Abhishek for Sri Sri Gaurnatai. Actually, Panchatatva. We have an Abhishek for Panchatatva that everybody will be invited to participate in. So thank you very much. All glory is to His divine grace. Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki